So Tyler, welcome onto the show. It's a pleasure to talk to you here, and I think we've gone back and forth on LinkedIn a little bit. I think it's the first time we meet in person, right? Yeah. So great to see you. Absolutely. I see you got a Bricz pop. Is that a Pop Tart? It looks like a Pop Tart.
It's a sugar cookie. So I know Morgan.
Very cool. Yeah. Let's look at that. Check that out. Nice. Yeah. Wow. I'm getting loaded up on sweets here. So I'm gonna have a cavity by the time I go home. So Tyler, why don't you tell us a little bit about Bricz for people that aren't familiar?
Give us a little overview. Absolutely. We are a supply chain solutions provider. So we focus on the implementation and delivery of best of breed supply chain solutions. So your top tier WMS, OMS, TMS, as well as we have a whole strategic consulting arm as well. So teams that are helping guide you all the way from strategic selection of software or data analytics all the way through the implementation. So it's one team, really dedicated focus. We work with large brands and retailers, 3PL and food and beverage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a great thing. And I've known Bricz for a little while and been familiar with you guys. And I think you're really expanding within the industry and being able to connect these different things that are becoming so important. So, I mean, as we're looking at Modex here, and I think I've heard maybe just this morning, and Modex has only been, the doors have been open for like, an hour and a half at this point. I think I've heard like 10 times that this is massive. There's so many solutions here. So, I mean, as the, on the integrator consulting side, I mean, you're working with all different types of clients. You're trying to solve these problems for them. So I mean, heading into Modex this year, I mean, what were your clients or prospective clients? I mean, what are they most interested in? What kind of solutions are they really looking for?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And we always say, we like to talk about helping our customers and prospects cut through the clutter that's here, right?
Okay, I like that. There's,
hundreds and hundreds of different vendors, some that are great, some that are new and innovative, some that are doing crazy things. Like there's a robot at the end of the aisle here that's like picking snacks for people that I've never seen before.
I saw that, the Reflex. That thing is crazy.
So something brand new that we've never seen before. So really it's twofold, right? So we have our customers here that are looking for upgrades in existing technology, right? So what's the latest and greatest in some of those existing warehouse management, order management systems, transportation management systems? So how can I take advantage of those new features and functionalities with traditional, supply chain technology? And then the other piece is, how do I start with innovation, right? So where do I even start, right? I've got a leader on my team or direction from the board that says, do something within robotics, do something within innovation. Here's an innovation budget is something we're asking customers more and more as they plan for their year. Like, do you have an innovation budget to try something and see what might happen? So it's really cutting through the clutter to understand based on, what their specific industry is, what we know about their flow, the way that they process goods and inbound and outbound, and help guide and navigate them to hit the 10 or 12 core vendors that really might make sense for them. Some really established vendors, but also some net new as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such an interesting thing to hear. And that innovation budget, I mean, I think that's a really interesting thing too.
Yeah.
And I've certainly been in that position before. I think that's becoming more and more prevalent. It's like, we need to get some robots, right? Or we need to get some type of automation. But like, what does that look like, right? Yeah. So I'm curious, though, I mean, because a lot of the discussion too, as I've been this year, I think especially I've been talking to more people in the industry, is about, not only, obviously we see, you hear Modex, you see the automation, you see the robotics, it stands out above everything else, right? But in the core and like the foundational of that is the software to be able to make those things kind of do what you're expecting them to do. So tell us a little bit about kind of from your perspective as we look at the evolution of that side. I mean, how is the software and the hardware like evolving together?
Yeah, it's a great question, because even with the best physical hardware that's out there, if it's not working in concert with the rest of your technology platform, you're going to just experience frustration, quite frankly, right? You're going to have data that gets dropped or messages that get dropped between systems and various other things. So what we've really seen over the last, let's call it 2 or 3 years here, is an increase in either those warehouse execution systems, the WES, so there's some very dedicated providers that's what they focus on. But you've got also a lot of these large system integrators that have their own technology as well. Now you have the WMS providers also trying to add some of that technology. So what we found really helpful with working with customers is identifying way up front on what system owns what part of the technology right now, right? And there can be an argument for different customers, different flows, that maybe it should reside in the WMS, maybe it should reside in the WES, maybe it should reside in the fulfillment robot solution, right? And so really taking a step before you even do, as part of that design phase of like, okay, what functionality is going to be who's the decision making? Where's the decision making engine? And it may differ for put away versus picking versus outbound loading, whatever it might be. So we found that really important in diagnosing up front, so that you can make the best design decisions when you're actually doing integration design and things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's so important to understand too. I mean, I think especially as you look at, if I'm just about to start on automation, robotics, like I need to make sure that like my systems are in place first,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And talk to us a little bit about on the data side too, because I think that's super important to understand.
Yeah, it's a big part of it is what data is needed by various systems, right? So if we're doing a picking implementation, and we're actually working with a customer right now that is heavy into batch numbers and lot codes. It matters to them on what factory that the product came from. So that's data that they're not actually using in the fulfillment process today.
Yeah.
But the robotic system that they're looking at is going to need to know. So we're having to do a whole mapping exercise of how do we start capturing batch number, lot number, and expiration date so that it can feed the robotic system, so that the right data is coming back to. I need to know when I pick this specific product. When's the expiration? When's the batch? If there's a recall, I need to be able to know exactly in all systems where it came forward. So that data mapping exercise is really important up front, and not just what you might need today, but also where your business might grow in the future. So that's something we're trying to help customers understand is through this process, how do we get out in front of that and think about not only what our immediate term goal is, but like let's make sure we don't code ourselves in a corner for 2 or 3 years from now as well.
Yeah, I think that's so important because I think at the end of it, we're generating. I don't know. I mean, as we're having this conversation, we're generating a bunch of data, right?
So absolutely. It's funny as we get into more of like machine learning and generative AI as well, right? I've more and more customers. I had some conversations with retailers last week, and almost all of them were asking like, how do I use generative AI? So it's like there's not even a one core solution that I can point you to. But it's this idea of like, I do have all this data, right? I've got a database with gigs and gigs of data. How can I use that to be more productive? I think that's like the next frontier that we're getting into. So things like your robotics companies, they're using that data inside their own algorithms, right? Like that's a big thing. But how do I use it on a bigger scale, like outside of robotics, within the whole warehouse? How does it connect between my receiving functionalities, my WMS, my transportation systems? How do I leverage that in operations, right? Can we use like LLMs and training to like get people to speed faster, right? Yeah. How do I chat with my WMS so that it just tells me, hey, how many orders did I ship in the last hour? And it just spits it back to me versus, okay, I need to go run this report and the report's not quite right today. Like I want this extra filter, those sorts of things. That's going to be really interesting with the data piece going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so important to be able to harness that. And I see a ton of like solutions out there that are now like really focusing on that, which I think is a great thing. And not only to just like generate data or capture data, but like to put data in a way and translate it in a way where you can actually, take some action, right? So I mean, I think it's like one thing you have all this data floating around, but if you don't do anything with it, it's just like, look, where's it going?
Things like visibility have been all the rage recently, right? And again, talking with partners who deliver that visibility software in various ways, whether it's order or transportation. And the biggest question they have is their customers are not able to utilize the data as much as possible. They have this visibility, but what do you go do with it, right? And so a strategic approach to here's all this data, let's sort through it and build an action plan of like, okay, do this in your WMS, do this in your order management, et cetera, is a really strategic way to go about harnessing all that information that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a great thing. And I think the focus definitely is so important to be on that, to be able to create kind of that foundation through the data, the systems, to be able to build on that and see some of these and put some of these exciting technologies in place within our operation. So I guess on that note, I mean, as you look at Modex here, as you're coming in, you're planning, and I don't know how much walking around you've done yet. It's just the beginning here on day one. But I mean, what technologies are really exciting for you? What are you really looking forward to checking out?
Yeah, I think for me, one that stands out that we saw a little bit last year is trailer unloading from a robotic standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
What I saw last year at ProMat was there were some technologies that were starting to get in that space, but they weren't fast enough, right? We've got some customers that are high volume and I mean, if you've got to be doing hundreds and hundreds of cartons a minute for it to even make sense.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing that I'm interested in seeing is how far has that technology advanced in this year. And then the other is small piece picking. So, whether it's a robotic arm or a clamp, various things like that is how do we integrate together? We've got these great traditional ASRSs and some various things there. There's always innovation there, but how do we pair that with another solution to make it a little bit more hands off? And so what's really nice is not only we have a booth here, but we also bring some of our robotics, subject matter experts here as well.
Yeah.
But their job is to walk the floor and talk to other vendors and be completely up to speed. Because if we're going to be that subject matter expert for our customers, we need our services people that are on the ground with those customers every day to be at the top of their game and know what's going on. So I'm really excited to do a debrief with them later this week to say, hey, what did you go see? What can I go see that I maybe have missed? Those sorts of things, to really stay at the top of what is innovating. So when our customers come and ask us, hey, what do you know about piece picking robots? What do you know about trailer unloading? We can answer confidently and have a contact at those companies that we can help connect our customers with as necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's probably top of the list for me is the loading, unloading too as well. And I think, and I mean, we're seeing more people enter that. I think even as I was just walking around here yesterday, when we were setting up, I saw like dexterity anywhere, robotics right there, slip, doing cool stuff. So I mean, it's really interesting to see, and I think that's such a needed automation. Yeah, it's like one of the toughest jobs in the warehouse. I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one that's outsourced a lot too, right? You've got lumpers and things like that. It's like we like to look for robotics that are things that take away non-value add tasks for humans and put them in value add, right? I'd rather have two people doing QA on a high end luxury fragrance package that's going to a customer, right? Than unloading a box and putting it on a conveyor. So if we can get that automated, it allows me to repurpose those people to do a higher value job in a warehouse, which is better for their career, but also better for the end customer, right? And so everything we want to do as a company is helping our customer, which are retailers and brands, help their end customer, right? Which is usually a person, sometimes it's B2B, but in the end, it's all about getting product in the hands of customers as quickly, efficiently, and cost effective as possible. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such an important thing, and to be able to see that and also to get some of that, labor situation and issues under control. So, I mean, it's really interesting stuff. And obviously, there's so much to see here, so many things to do. And we definitely appreciate you coming by and talking to us. If people are interested in getting in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're here at the show, you can stop by. We're in the B Hall booth B8658. You can also hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm really responsive there. So it's probably the best place.
Definitely. And I see him on LinkedIn, so I will vouch for that.
I've made a push to be more active on LinkedIn this year. So I'm definitely excited about that.
Absolutely. So Tyler, thank you so much for stopping
Thanks
by.
For
It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video here on our YouTube channel, The New Warehouse Podcast, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked what you saw, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and if you like this video in particular, make sure you like it as well. And if you want to get this great t-shirt that you see in the video behind me, Warehouses Are Sexy, head to warehousesAreSexy.com and get your own.